What is good, everybody? It is KJ, and I'm here to kind of transition my YouTube channel a little bit and jump into some new content, right? So the last time y'all saw me, I was definitely kind of just like focused solely on Pokemon content. And as you can see sort of in my background, yes, I'm a big Pokemon fan, but I also really love RPGs. You can see some of them on the shelf in the back. And I kind of want to do something new where I am highlighting sort of my experience with these different new RPGs that are coming out and just sort of give y'all a first take on the first 5, maybe 10 hours of me playing the game. And then because these are all like 40, 50, 60 hour adventures, I'm also going to be giving y'all a little bit of sort of the final takes and what I think about the game and everything after that. Now, I will say these initial sort of first 5-hour reviews or so will probably not include all the mechanics. So there will be sort of a mechanics overview as things get introduced in like later portions of a game, as well as just kind of talking very generally how I feel about the story. I might talk about some of the tropes and things that are in the stories, maybe flash to some different things, but overall, I want to make sure that I don't really spoil something and just kind of give a general overview without kind of diving too deep into the story. However, from a gameplay perspective, you will get a lot of gameplay spoilers because I am going to want to kind of dive into the general overview of how a game functions and how it feels. So with that, let's jump in. So the first game that I want to talk about, and obviously you can see in the title and with the thumbnail, is we're going to be talking about Fantasian Neo Dimension. Now, this is a game that came out quite a few years ago, and it was specifically an Apple Arcade release, and it got released in 2 parts. Now, I really wanted to play this game because it is a Mistwalker game, and it is created by Sakaguchi and has some a lot of Uematsu music and stuff like that. So I was really excited. Like, if you don't know, those are the creator of Final Fantasy and one of the primary composers for the Final Fantasy soundtracks. So I really wanted to play this game. It looks really dope, but I was really bummed out that the only way I'd be able to play it is on my MacBook. So I decided, nah, we're not going to do that. I'm just going to hold off. And then sometime in like mid 2024, there was an announcement that both parts, because it came out in 2 parts, were actually going to be released on console. Now, with that said, because the game is not a super intensive game, and I figured, it's a game that was on sort of like, for lack of better words, mobile platforms, I decided to get the Switch version because I figured that it wouldn't actually be that big of a deal to kind of have this. And if there were some like slight slowdowns, it would be okay. Shout out to Square. I believe they are the ones that published this. And yeah, honestly, like super, super excited to talk about this game. Now, I will say the first thing that kind of immediately hit me when I came into the game was that it was very, very, very tropey. In the first 10 minutes, you get the main character has lost their memory trope. And I was like, okay, another one of these. Let's see where they go with this. And the nice part is they do kind of throw you right into the action. You get to kind of fight a boss with a party member that is sort of like a machine, and you don't know really anything about them. You're just in this like machine world or whatever, and you're just kind of trying to get through, and then you kind of go from there, right? And so the first portion from what I've played of this game is the main character kind of trying to figure out like some girl that he met at some point, as well as just kind of trying to figure out like his memory and sort of trace things back and stuff like that, and find people from his past to kind of help put the pieces together, right? So in the first 5 hours, you do meet, I believe, 2 other characters. I've played a little more than the first 5 hours, so yeah, I'll say like the first 10 hours, you do meet 2 other characters that are in your party, and it's been super interesting. There's been definitely some stuff where they've kind of left some breadcrumbs with like who could be one of the sort of big bads, as well as sort of how some of the other characters are all tied together. So I am really, really curious to see how they sort of link all of that together. Now, I do want to talk kind of in depth with the combat system because it has some really unique stuff, right? So first of all, when you're casting magic, because the game, like every scene in the game is crafted by a real 3D diorama, it ends up being the case where you can kind of like control the trajectory of the magic that you're casting. So you can like curve it so that way you can hit multiple enemies, and you can kind of like, some different things have like piercing abilities, and some weapons have piercing abilities as well. So you can kind of really control the trajectory of your attacks depending on who's attacking and kind of what things you have equipped and stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was a really unique way to do this. Like, I didn't think that something like that would ever be sort of prevalent. But yeah, I really thought that was pretty cool. And so that was one of the first things that I noticed. The second thing that I want to highlight, and honestly, this is something that really pulled me into the game. This game has a sort of like dimension system where you actually can kind of put random encounters into like this pocket dimension and fight them whenever you want. Now, there is a cap to this. The cap is 30 enemies. So if you're running around, it is random encounters. So if you're running around and you were to encounter like 5 enemies, those 5 enemies would then be added to the pocket dimension. And you can choose at any point to just battle the enemies, or you can sort of like wait until it overflows. And if it overflows past the 30 limit, then you have to battle them. It is really cool though, because it kind of allows you to explore a little bit more, as well as just kind of fight everything in bulk. So typically a strategy that I've kind of been using is, this game is very much crafted in a similar way and sort of inspired by a lot of retro games where there's a save point right before bosses. So what I usually do is I will save everything until I get to a boss, until a save point. And at the save point, you can use these heal stones. It's an item that basically fully heals your party. And from there, I just go all out and fight everything that's in my pocket dimension, and then fight the boss. And that kind of helps with like leveling up a little bit before the boss and stuff like that. And then I can use the heal stone at the save crystal to actually heal my party fully, and then I'll be ready for the boss fight. It's really cool. I really enjoy that aspect of things, and I think they definitely kind of knocked it out of the park when it comes to that. That's something that I'm really, really happy for, and I'm hoping that they can kind of expand on that a little more as I get further into the game, because I'd love to see exactly what they're gonna do to expand on that. It is cool too, I didn't mention, but there's also sort of like power-ups that you can get. So there's like a turnstile power-up, and there's like attack-up power-ups and stuff like that. So I think the sky's the limit sort of what they could do with those different things. And I think it'd be really cool if it like starts to expand and you end up having like 60, 70, 80, 100 enemies in one thing. And it's just like, okay, it's just this big, massive battle royale where you're just constantly fighting through enemies and trying to power through and just like kill as many enemies as possible, but also stockpile all these enemies so that you can have like massive experience, you know? A couple of things I do want to highlight after moving past some of the battle stuff is you can kind of see the influence of this being an Apple Arcade / mobile game, as like there are things on the map where you can kind of just like select points on the map where it'll just auto bring your character to it. I think that's cool quality of life. I don't want to have to like search for different things. Like, I don't know. It's nice being able to just, it's not like a fast travel to different points on the map, but it is a case where I can kind of just like, you know, select a point on the map and it just goes there. That said, there is fast travel, and it is very, very useful to fast travel to different areas. They call them like warp points. And yeah, those have been really, really nice to be able to use. The last thing I want to highlight is the sort of like character equipment system. Now, each character has a weapon, obviously, that is distinct to them. Some armor, where in this case, I think most characters can use most armor, it seems like. And the different armor will have sort of different abilities and stuff like that. So that's been really cool, just like stat bonuses, as well as like some different skills that they have and stuff like that. And then finally, there's like a gem system. And I think that's been something that's been really cool, because the gems have super different things going on. Like some of them, it's like, oh, attack plus, or MP plus, or HP plus. And then some of them are like, oh, fire resistance up. So it's sort of like the accessory system are these gems. And I think some of them it's even like piercing plus, where it gives your weapon piercing abilities. And so I think that's really cool, and I'm curious to see how they expand on those. Right now, I only have like one gem slot, or jewel slot, I think they call them, on each character. I'm hoping that that opens up a bit, because that would be really nice. But yeah, so the last thing I want to talk about is kind of what I hope to see going further. And so I think going further, the story is definitely, it's dropping breadcrumbs, but it is kind of a generic character lost their memory story. So I'm really hoping for something a little bit more. And then I'm also hoping for just like some expansion on characters. Obviously, I'm pretty sure that'll happen. Like I can see on the cover there's more than just the 3 characters that I have right now. So I'm hoping that I can get more characters. And I'm really hoping that I end up in a spot where like the combat is more expansive. I think if this is sort of where the combat ends and sort of like the systems end, I'll be a little sad. I hope to see a little bit more going on, right? Like there's various different things that they could do, I think, to build on that. And I think, again, I just mentioned one, like more accessories or stuff like that. I think that would be really cool, even if it ends up being sort of like an optional thing where it's like you don't necessarily have it and you can kind of like equip something that opens up another slot or something like that. And I don't know, maybe we'll see. But I'm really excited to play this game. I've been super excited to play this game. I believe it came out in 2021, and it was either 2020 or 2021. And I just like really wanted to play this, but I couldn't justify playing it on my MacBook, and I didn't have any other Apple devices. I still don't have any other Apple devices. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. But with that, I'm going to try to keep these videos, especially the initial reviews, a little short. So I appreciate y'all for watching. If you do like the content, please hit the like button down below. Consider subscribing and leave some comments. Like, let me know what you think if you played Fantasian. Let me know if this helps you kind of think about wanting to get into Fantasian. And let me know what you think about sort of this RPG sort of initial review and then final review that I've got going on. I'm gonna try to have the videos come out within like a week of each other or so. So I got a lot of gaming to do. But with that, I'm gonna let y'all get out of here. I will catch y'all later. Thank you, everybody. Take it easy. Peace.